thingies that'll tell us. Rotorua. What the hell is happening? It's a long way away. Right? It's a bit chilly today compared to what we've had. We've had temps here for about 30-35 degrees the last few days, wrapping in between. I think this will burn off though, and we'll be okay a little bit later on. So we're going to arrive down in Rotorua around about 9 o'clock, a little bit after depending on traffic, and we're going to go for a wander first, which is early for where we need to be at Tauranga. So we're going to do 2 or 3 things once we get down there. We're going to take you on a city tour. We'll also go into the government gardens down there, which is really, really nice. So you can have a wander in the gardens for kind of 10-15 minutes, and then we'll go back on down around, maybe past the waterfront. If we don't do the waterfront this morning or lakefront, we'll do it this afternoon. We have to be back here supposedly at 2:45. Now, just as we start the day, I'll let you know I take no notice of timetables. So, what time's your ship out?
5:30.
Oh, we'll be back by then. Well and true. They start ringing after about 20 minutes late, eh? So let me tell you a little bit about our little town here. So the Mount's a suburb of the greater Tauranga area. So Tauranga is a city which is over a bridge down here. I don't know, we won't go past today. And kind of right in behind your ship. So if you're up early enough and you saw all those logs stacked on the port, you would have seen the city right up in the end. That's the Tauranga city. On this side of the harbour is the Mount. Now the Mount has a population most of the year round of about 25,000. So 25,000. What happens though is Christmas comes along and school holidays come along, and our population here at Christmas time expands to just on 100,000. Wow. So we go from 25,000 to 100, quite a massive change. So the whole of the centre of the Mount here is built for 100,000. So a lot of the housing is what we call holiday lets or holiday homes. Big Airbnb and book a batch industry here. There are lots and lots of properties out through Airbnb and book a batch. Interestingly though, because when school goes back, which is just gone back actually, last week or so, it just empties out. And all of a sudden you go from can't move anywhere to have no problem going anywhere. So down here when the holiday season's on, you just can't move. So from a traveller's perspective, you guys picked absolutely the right time to come to the mountain. Because you're past the school holidays, you're in the period where the weather is settled. And that's kind of important. Now, if you're looking at the building on the left, it was Molly Malone's pub, and it was a great pub. It used to rock all night, but it got a bit loud, and they've decided to replace it with a nice sedate apartment building. Quite sad, really. Now, so if you look at these apartments along here on the right-hand side, that's not a hotel. They're all let out through Airbnb, all privately owned, a whole lot of them. So a lot of them will have Christmas time. If you're trying to rent an apartment around here or a house around here, you'll pay a minimum of $600 a night. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, and it is if you're renting a one-bedroom apartment. Now, if you're renting a house and you can get a house for kind of $600 a night, and there's 2 families or 3 families staying in it because it's a 4 or 5 bedroom house, then the cost's nowhere like staying in a hotel because you can have all the entertainment and everything else there as well. The second thing is that this is an isthmus, right? So coming down, I'll show you how far back we go as we wander our way back up, because it goes a long way back. A lot of the properties down here, you can tell when nobody's here because they're all closed up and you have the blinds and everything else closed. But being an isthmus, it's also very narrow. So if you look up the end of this street as we go past it to the right here, by the way, that's the Mount's main street ahead of us. You will not find a supermarket down there. You'll find clothing stores, you'll find souvenir stores, you'll find 1,000,001 restaurants, but you won't find a clothing store. Now if we look up to the right there, see the trees at the end of that road? That's on a little island. So that's how narrow we are down through here. So when you go for your wander this afternoon and you go for a bit of a walk, assuming we get back before the ship sails, and you walk down here, you're going to see tsunami signs. We've got a lot of tsunami warning signs out here, and we've never had one, and that's really good news. But that's because, in a way, because this is so narrow. Because they know that in the case of something going wrong, this is going to be washed over real quick. So when we've got 100,000 people here, the drill is that we've all got to go up the top of the mountain, right? So we're all going to get up there and hold hands, because it's the only way we're all going to fit. But we're probably going to have to stand on each other. So it's quite condensed. Now, if you're adventurous, this is what you're doing this afternoon, should you get back on time. Now, see those V8 trikes? Ideal is if you're wearing a toupee, because you'll be able to pick it up from behind you. Those things just about stand on their back wheel even when they're going slow. Alright? They don't know how to go slow, I think, those guys. But coming down through here, now we look down through here and we have two beaches. We have Main Beach, which is on the other side, and this is called Pilot Bay in here. So Pilot Bay. Now Pilot Bay is the area where lots and lots of people come down here with their families at the Christmas period. Why do they come down here on this side of the family? Because on this side it's very shallow. So if you take these first boats out here, an average junior kid can wander out to them. So a kid about 7 or 8 can walk out and touch those first boats. We also don't get the tide coming and going, so it just sits nice and firmly here, and they're nice and safe. On the other side, however, it's a surf beach. So as a surf beach, it's kind of a little more up and down. Now, let's tell you the story of the mountain. So our mountain, now see up here in the bush, you can see the face? Just before we go too far, you see the nose and the mouth and the eyes? Right, that's natural. It's natural because the mountain wasn't always here. It was about 200 kilometres to the south and up through the valley up here. So you see up through the valley up there, where the valley is? Now that valley wasn't there either. But what happened was, one night the mountain was there with its brother and sister mountain and all its friends, and there was a lady mountain moved in. There was always a man and a lady, isn't it, when there's an argument. And there was a big argument between two of the brothers. And this was a smaller of a mountain, they put the mountains there, or the hills there, and they called it the Slave Hill, or the Slave Mountain, the other ones. Now, after the argument, the mountain decided it didn't want to stay, so they called on the Pariparu, which are the night ferries, the Maoris, and it asked them to move it, and it wanted to go back to its ancestral homeland. So heading back to its ancestral homeland, it was wanting to come back here and go out to Hawaii. So they dragged it up, they made ropes out of flax, and we'll show you flax today and show you what it looks like. And they hooked it around it, and one night they came to bring it up here. To take it here, take it off land, to take it off to its a traditional homeland. When they got up here, they wanted to show it around. So they dragged it around and around in the centre here, and that's what formed our harbour. They also went out in a number of different areas up here, and that's what formed the tentacles for the harbour. Now, if you fly over this harbour at a high enough height, you'll actually find that it looks like the body of an octopus. It has exactly the same number of feeds to it as an octopus has arms. Alright? So while they turned it around, it's having a look, and it's crying. So you can see the face, and it's crying down the front here, and that's what made the little marks down there where you can see where the tears come down. And on a wet day it still cries, and you can see the tears. The night fairies waited, and they waited because they wanted it to be settled before they took it out to sea and back to its ancestral homeland. And we had an early sunrise that day. And do you know what happens on an early sunrise? The night fairies went home. And that's where it's remained ever since. Subsequently called Moao. Now, if you want to know how to pronounce that, you kind of go meow. I kick my toe out. Meow. Alright? Now that means no name. So the mountain is actually called No Name. And that's the story of how we got our mountain. Now, how did the isthmus get formed? The isthmus got formed by the explosion of Lake Taupo, which was, and the formation of Lake Taupo in the centre of North Island some thousands of years ago. When it was formed, this was just a coral reef out to here, obviously without the mountain, because it hadn't been dragged here at that stage. And a lot of the ash landed in this area. So that's why the bay became called the Bay of Plenty, because when that ash landed, it brought a lot of mineral in with it. When it brought that mineral in, all that mineral landed down here and covered the reef that was out here and became solid land over time. Now, it's solid land to a point. And when I say to a point, because it's very difficult to build on this land, because the minerals that landed were actually like talcum powder. So if you imagine talcum powder and how if you bang it like that, it all fluffs and goes everywhere. I'm going to show you some of that on the way down our motorway, because you can see it stacked up on the side there. Building on this land was very, very difficult, because to build on it you have to go down either to bedrock, which is in the case of one of the hotels around here, or apartment buildings, 300 feet below the building itself. Or you put in what we call a floating foundation. So a floating foundation is where you kind of box the foundation around the outside, put some polystyrene in the base and pour the concrete over the top of it. And it doesn't mean literally it's floating, but it just means that it's got a solid base it sits on, so if anything moves, it all moves together. And we're going to go down a highway, we're going to talk about polystyrene and flow on. So, now, if you want to buy a property down here, guys, really cheap to buy one down here. Anywhere under $2 million, you won't be buying one. So $2 million plus for a property around this area we're just going around now. And with the top end being, I think the top one just sold recently for 35 million. Now it's okay, because the Aussie dollar is worth 90 odd cents, so you're not paying quite as much. The American dollar is worth 60 cents, or our dollar is worth 60, so you're paying about 40% less than normal. So you can afford to buy plenty. Alright? Now down here on the left hand side, that's our motor camp. Christmas time, that falls up absolutely totally. And when I say absolutely totally, if you haven't got a booking there year on year on year, you won't get it. So a lot of families make bookings here and they come here every Christmas, and when they come here every Christmas they stay there and it costs them $100 a night just for their site. If they're not coming for the night, for the Christmas, often they'll pay for it just to retain their site for next year. They can't sublet. And then we'll pay $20 on top for each person who stays in the house. That's our Mount hot pools, and they are natural salt hot water. Natural salt hot water. So they drilled down and came up with a bore that had hot water in it, and that's what's pumped into those pools and pumped through those pools. Now I talked about the apartments where they had to go down so deep to put the apartment in, and these are the ones here, the two right here on the corner. It was when these two were built, the council said we can't continue to do this because we're going to destroy the structure that holds us up. Those were the last two apartments that had approval to be built at that level. Yeah, so now the maximum level you can go is a level that can be supported by a floating foundation. So that's 3 levels. This is our new Surf Life Saving Club here. And down here on the beach, we hold in January our New Zealand, every year we hold the New Zealand Surf Life Saving Championships. We hold the beach volleyball championships. We hold the junior school championships here in the April period. We hold the Ames Games here, and the Ames Games are when all the schools around North Island come together here every August. That beach, if you want to go swimming on that beach, is the temperature today would be around about 22 degrees, so it's not too cold. Now, that's a good surf beach, you can tell, can't you? See all the big waves? We've got a very intelligent council here. What they did was, out from Mile, they built a breakwater a few years ago, and they built it out, and the idea was it was going to cause waves. Alright? You see how it worked? It actually didn't work at all. What it did was it caused the water to come in around the breakwater, circle around the beach, and go back out and take the beach with it. But it wasn't done like that on the drawings, they said. So they had to take it down. It's 160 mil to build it, and I think it cost them just on 200 to take it out.
Wow.
And now we say, well, if we've got waves, we've got waves. But it is pretty much most of the year round you can surf off this beach. And that'll pick up again later on change of tide. Now, this little building over here on the right-hand side was built by Sir Brad Cummins, who is the trainer for the racehorse Sir Tristram. And he built that property for his staff, and it was built, if you're being a good boy, you can come here, or girl, you can come here, you can stay in it for a weekend, or one of the apartments within it for a weekend, and then go home again at the end of a weekend. So he never stays in it himself. It's just used by his staff. Now this beach on the left-hand side is a white sand beach, and it's safe swimming its entire length. We have no undertows on it. We often get some pretty big storms rolling here, and some pretty big waves coming through there, but we have no undertow at all. Now, a little island out here, that used to be a pleasure island. There used to be, what do you call it, Ferris wheels and all sorts of stuff on there, but over time it got run down. They eventually went, no, we're going to let it return back to nature, so they pulled it all down and took it out. It's now a bird sanctuary, but you can walk right around the base of it. Now, this person on the right-hand side here who built this house also owns the equivalent of the eBay in New Zealand, so Trade Me. Now, he's a bit of a private person. He doesn't like a lot of people looking in his windows. And he doesn't like to see much either. However, we can tell when he's in residence because all of that front concrete, those big concrete panels across the front, disappear. They go up in the sky and they fall back onto the roof.
You're kidding.
So it's just one big glass panel right across the front of that. Now, we had a ship, we've got the Astrolabe Reef out here, and I don't know whether any of you heard about the Rena, which was a coastal ship that sunk off the Astrolabe Reef about 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. When the Rena sunk, it was coming from Napier, and it was the captain's birthday. And he'd picked up some entertainment at Napier. We won't tell you what the entertainment was. And they were heading up here, and he'd handed the ship over to command of the first mate. Now, the first mate wanted to be involved in the entertainment. So he handed the ship over to some junior officer who decided that he could see Tauranga Harbour entrance over here, so he had turned left and drove the ship straight over the reef, just about 10 miles out there. Now, what happened when that happened was this beach got contaminated for 6 months. So we had the heavy engine oil come in and absolutely spoil our beach for about 6 months. The captain's still in jail, so really pleased that he had a good night out. And his first mate's still in jail. That's just a by the by. Now, who first settled in this area? Maori first settled in this area. Where your ship is berthed, if you assume this was pretty undeveloped at that stage, across from there on the other side, directly across, on what we could now call Sulphur Point, is where Maori first tied up their first few walkers when they arrived here from Hawaii. And when they arrived here, there were two lots of Maoris arrived. The Maoris arrived here from Hawaii, tied up here, and also Makatu. So we're going to pass by Makatu on the way out this morning. As they settled in here, about 200 years later, there was a bit of a land war between the various tribes. They invited the missionaries in. So then the missionaries came along after Maori. See, now, when Maori were first here, they were cannibalistic. The missionaries were a bit dubious about coming here, but the chiefs apparently sat down together and had a chat with the missionaries, said, we promise not to eat you. We'll only eat the other tribe, but we need to settle these land wars down a little bit. So when the missionaries arrived, they brought in the Norfolk pine with them. So this is the Norfolk pine growing along here. Brought it for two reasons. One, it grows very well here because it's used to the environment. But secondly, because they could put the sign of a cross around the bay, or around where they were. Now, just have a look at the top of a Norfolk pine. What they did when they first planted them was they used to take the top two branches off, leave the third branch, and take the fourth and fifth branch off. And it gave you absolute sign of a cross on the top of the tree. So they could plant their sign of a cross all around the bay, which gave them something they could talk about. Secondly, what happened, and the reason they never ever really were eaten by the Maori is because they both agreed that they both believed in similar things. And the similar things they believed in was something you can't touch, feel and see. Now, if you come to the bay in the 60s, this little blue house over here on the right, only one we have left. You would have seen that in either a blue colour or a yellow colour, right down through the bay here. We would have been, that bus hadn't been right. Now this one here, 1970s, and that's when that that style of housing was built along here. So coming back to Maori's missionaries. Maoris came in here, missionaries came in here, and the missionaries were really the judges around a lot of that early warring that happened. And then the Europeans arrived, and we just screwed it up totally. We kind of did a treaty that was the most one-sided treaty that you've ever seen, which is not really that unusual, I guess. And subsequent to that, over the years, we've been settling the Waitangi treaty now for the last heavens knows how many years. And it'll probably go on for the next heavens knows how many years. Now you may be wondering about these little buildings on the right-hand side here that are kind of covered in plastic. We ran out of time to finish building them before Christmas, and we knew we had a lot of visitors coming, so we just put a tent over them. Now, if you really believe that, you're definitely from Australia. What really happened, guys, was about 10 years ago, there was a company called Hardy Building Materials, and they were an Australian company. Quite a lot of materials over here, and those materials were kind of the most absorbent materials you've ever seen. So when it rained, the water went straight through them. It didn't hold any water out at all. Subsequently, they went broke. And when they went broke, there was no claim back on them. So government settled a lot of the claims that were on the houses. But in order to dry them out, and there were a number of them through here, a number of the big buildings exactly the same, they have to build that kind of structure over them, particularly the older ones. They declad them, they leave them for nearly 12 months, and they keep a heated environment going in there. You can still live in the building until it's completely dry, then they reclad them. But what it does is it actually devalues the property by about 20%. So if you're going to buy a property, you look for one that was a leaky home. It's never been done up. Because you're going to get it for 20% less than your neighbour. Now these green trees you can see along here, you're going to see a lot of those in the bay. They're called a pahutakawa tree. So pahutakawa tree, the other name for that is the New Zealand Christmas tree. Now why is it a New Zealand Christmas tree? Well, Christmas time it has a beautiful red flower on it. Now that flower comes and forms in about the October period. October, November. The earlier we get the flower, the better the Christmas we know we're going to get here, or the better the weather we're going to get through here at Christmas time. Now that red flower stays on those trees almost until Christmas Day, and it all of a sudden drops off and it's gone. And they become green again. Now over on the right, those 4 little apartments you can see there, that had one property on there up till 2 years ago. And they bought the one property that was on there for $4 million, is what it sold for. They bulldozed it the next day, and they started building apartments. Those apartments, you can buy any one of those apartments now for just under $3 million. So we're still in the mountain, and I'm going to show you where we changed soon. We changed from the mountain to Papamala, and the prices, one side of the road, the other just plummeted, where we're moving out of the holiday area. So a lot of these houses down through here are also holiday lets. We've got a reasonably stable population down through here, so we went kind of every third house or fourth house has lived it during the year. A lot of the others, they come and go. This is another holiday home in here on the left-hand side, as is the one in behind it. I've never ever seen anyone play tennis on their tennis court, by the way. Never. Now, coming down here, moving down through this area here, 2 sides of a road. Now that's not bad for a driver to be able to work that out. Right-hand side of the road, if you buy a house on the right-hand side of the road, you'll pay a premium of 20% over what you would pay on the left-hand side of the road. Now that premium is because you don't have to cross the road to get to a beach. Now, secondly, if you buy a house on the left-hand side of the road, sometimes they go 4 deep back to a beach, you get an automatic right of egress through your neighbour's property to get to the beach. You don't have to walk the 50 metres either side of your front gate to get to a beach access. You can just go straight through the yard. Now, the perfect time to go is when they're cooking the sausages. You can grab a sausage and just keep going, have it feed on the way down to the beach, have your swim and come back. Better luck, there'll still be some sausages left. Now Now, one of the things you are going to notice here is we're very green, and we very seldom dry off. We don't water here, we don't have to water. The ground is minerally rich enough, but it just keeps our grass relatively green. If you want to plant something here, so long as it's capable of forming its own root factor, you can break a piece off another plant, poke it in the ground, and walk away from it, and it will grow, and will continue to grow. One of the things that we're not good at in New Zealand, and we're not good at it mainly because of two reasons. One, that's the age of New Zealand. You know, we're a fairly young country. But the second reason we're not good at it is because we call the second name, three names for New Zealand. There's New Zealand, we won't use any of the Australian names. There's Aotearoa, and there's some talk about maybe we should change the name to Aotearoa. So not. However, the third one is the Shaky Isles. Now, why do they call us the Shaky Isles? We have an excess of 15,000 earthquakes a year. In fact, in the Bay Area this morning, when I woke up and I was reading the news, I read that we had an earthquake that was 5.2 on the Richter scale here last night. Didn't feel a little. So, how many of our earthquakes are felt? They reckon about 150 a year you'll feel. You won't feel most of the rest of them. So most of the rest of them will just be like, you just had a truck drive past your house. And you go, oh, where's the truck? It wasn't a truck, okay, it must have been an earthquake. However, some of the bigger earthquakes have done quite a bit of damage. And if we go back to the Rotorua earthquake down the South Island, that closed the South Island Road on the east coast down for months on end, had left trains stranded, towns cut off, and all sorts of things. But the big part with that one was they've now proven that it moved the entire South Island 1 metre west. And if you look it up, you can find that on Google. So as an island, the whole island shifted. Now the good part about New Zealand is earthquakes are never going to sink us because we're on top of a tectonic plate. So as we get the earthquakes, unless we start heading back towards Australia, which is where they believe the landmass came from originally, then we would start to go downwards. Otherwise, we're going to continue to rise. So we're gaining more land all the time. It's quite good, really. Doesn't make our lot sizes any bigger, but it gives us more land and it means we're not going to sink. Now, these houses in here on the right-hand side, right down here, are all about to be bulldozed. So they're putting in 28 new apartments in there, and the apartment starting prices in there are 2.5, I think, to buy an apartment. And that comes down to about there. So we're still running along the coast down here, and we're about 3 properties away. In fact, we'll be coming around this corner here, and just around the corner, you'll be able to look directly through and see the sea again. Now, a lot of people in the bay, their lives revolve around the sea. So they want to live by it, close to it. It's one of our it's the main attraction of the area, that and the sunshine. Plenty of sunshine hours a year. Our summer lasts through till about May. And then when we come to winter, we don't really get winter at all. Now this old guy here, the council supply him push bikes. He's nutty as a fruitcake. And he rides around normally singing at the top of his voice. But he does nobody any harm, so when he loses his bike, which he does regularly, the council give him another one from one that they've collected from somewhere. Oh, he's building a jungle gym. Right, so coming down through here, now I can talk about a couple of the properties in here. I know the best known is this one on the right hand side here. That's a holiday let. Now that at Christmas time you'd rent that for about $700 a night. This one here on the left hand side is a farmer in the Bay area, or in the Waikato area, and he lets that out for just on $600 a night. And he says he doesn't care if nobody rents it, because I think it's a tax dodge, to be honest. So it doesn't get used a lot. Now, directly ahead of the bus, you're going to see one of the other industries that's very strong in the bay, and that's the retirement industry. So we've got a lot of people with grey hair, obviously far older than I am, moving into retirement villages. So the idea of a retirement village, and we're going to run right along the shoreline here, is really quite good, because you can buy a villa in here. You know, you're going to pay 700, 800, 900,000 for a villa in the front here. Now, that villa, when you buy it, you're immediately losing 20% back to the village, which is fine, because you don't care at that stage. As your health or circumstances change, but you can remain in the village, and you slowly move back until you move into intensive care within the village. So, from a perspective of security for families, knowing that mum and dad are in there, and that they're now in their what do they call it, forever home. It's a very secure way of going through those later years where you just want that little bit of extra help around the yard, somebody doing your yard, somebody doing your gardens, somebody who looks after your maintenance for you, so, and the cost that you have, and on top of that you'll pay $125 I guess, a week for the maintenance levy on the village. Now that village you'd think would go right down to here, wouldn't you? Well, I can't build on this land here because they found some bones in it. But now the local iwi or Maori have declared that that's sacred land. So that padding, those houses over back there, we're expecting to have more villas built in front of them. They're lucky they're not going to get them. However, this side, the sand dunes are privately owned. So they're all individual lots. Now I'm going to show you the dumbest thing I've seen in my life. And we're just coming up to it down here before we turn right. And if you look what they've done here, when you turn right at this corner, you have a look at that, what's been built there, and what they've done. They've bulldozed the sand dunes away. So our natural protection from the sea has now gone there. Our new natural protection is their houses. And we believe that that's what will happen right along there. They'll bulldoze the sand dunes out and build housing there. Now, I said I'd tell you when we came to the difference between Mount Maunganui and Papamoa. We're there. So on the left-hand side of the bus is Papamoa. On the right-hand side of the bus is Mount Maunganui. So if you want to buy in the street, buy on that side of the road. You won't have a mount address, but you'll be 20 to 30% less on this side of the road than you will on the right-hand side of the road because you haven't got the mount address. And just before you ask, no, I don't sell real estate in my spare time. Now, as we move up here, we're moving into more and more newer subdivisions. We've got a bit of an issue in the bay. Our population's growing by 18% per annum. 18% per annum. But the second issue we've got is inflation. So our house prices are rising by 15% per annum. That's 15%. So you can buy a property here today, close it up for a year, put it back on the market this time next year, and put 15% on top of what you paid for it today, and you'll sell it overnight. So there is a list of people waiting to buy properties apparently in the bay. I haven't tried it, but if the second part is, they say, if you see a house with a for sale sign on it, all that's telling you is that house is overpriced. Because it should have been sold before the sign got on. Now, as we're developing and we're supposedly running out of land, you can see what's happening over here. See how the sites are getting smaller and smaller. Now, those were built before the ones on the right-hand side. Now, where we have one house on a lot here, we have two on the right-hand side. So they've become smaller again. The streets on the right-hand side around this little block here have no footpaths. So if you're staying there or living there as a family, you can let your kids play on the road and get run over by the neighbour. So we're going to pull out now onto a highway. Now we call this polystyrene highway. Or if you're riding with the guys going Oxford Kiwi Experience, they'll call it the TEL, which is the Tauranga Eastern Link. We call it the polystyrene highway. Why do we do that? Remember I talked earlier about the mineral coating that the land has down through here and the talcum powder. When they built this road, it was only opened about 5 years ago. So it was built at 60% of the time that was allocated to build it, and at 60% of the cost. Now, it didn't bear any relevance at all, but that's just the way it worked out. Very unusual to have any sort of department or any business that builds at 60% and 60%. However, when they started to build it, they had an issue. Because where they felt this land was more firm than we had down the mountain. And by the way, if we can look out to the right now, we're just coming out the back end of Inner Harbour. We'll show you on the way back in this afternoon. When they built this, they had some issues, and they got a lot of form at this end. Then they saw the road was sinking. And the road was sinking because the powder, if you like, of sand was moving out from under the road. So they had to dig it all up again. They went, well, what are we going to do? So when they dug it all up again, they discovered that by putting polystyrene under the road, it would remain stable. So they got big blocks of polystyrene about the size of the height of this bus, length of this bus, and laid them in areas across the road. They then compacted the base on top of that, and then put the road over top. They now say, and they tell us, that styrene has a lifespan of just on 1,000 years. The second thing they tell us is the styrene is exactly the same stuff that you buy your pot or your pan in, or your fridge in. So when it goes to landfill, it's there for 1,000 years. So I think some of our manufacturers need to be looking at some of the stuff they're using to wrap our things up with. But regardless of that, we now have a very stable road. When they built this road, they said 35 years before we have to put any exits off it or do anything to it. Council came along and said, well, maybe not. So also the farmers said, maybe not. Then we had farms either side of us, which were one farm running right across the road. We have 20 underpasses going through the length of this road. This is one of 2 toll roads in the bay. We have one going out on the eastern side, one coming in on the western side of Tauranga. You can avoid them if you want to, but you'll spend about half an hour avoiding them for longer than that. It'll take about 10 minutes to get along here. Instead of coming along here in 10 minutes, you'll probably spend 3/4 of an hour going around it, so it's just not worth it. So, with the building of it, and all these abutments to the road, or where we go up to a bridge abutment, they are all built out of styrene, the whole of the abutment. A couple of lads got in here when it was first being built though, and they tried to see if styrene burns. Well, it does. And they set the styrene on fire underneath the road, and they had to dig up a whole lot and relay it. Put security on after that. Now, I want you to look out to the right. See the trees out to the right? 2 trees on top of the hill. See the terraces coming down from there. You got it? Now look at this sculpture coming up on the right-hand side of the bus just here. So sculpture represents what you're seeing on top of the hill. So the top of the sculpture, and this is a typical Maori warpath site, alright? So what happened when they were challenged, they went to the hills. So if they could see another tribe coming, they'd head up the hill. So if you look at right along the top of that hill, there's a whole lot of terraces around a lot of it. A lot of it's now disappeared, and it's disappeared because of land movement. The very top of that was the lookout. Why did they go up the hills? Because they could see people coming. And the idea was, if we can see the enemy coming, we can actually defend ourselves. Working your way down through that, you had your lookout on top, you had then your women and children in that second ring, you had your first row of warriors on the next ring down, and your second row of what we call sacrificial warriors on the bottom row down. When we say sacrificial warriors, they were going to be the ones who were going to be dead first. And then the second row moved in. And that was typical right along here. So we'd have a village layout or a marae layout down on the flat. Challenge would come, the warning would come out from up the hill. They'd all move up the hill for protection. Now we're going to run through some kiwi fruit country today as well, so we'll be able to see a little bit of kiwi. Now, I talked about the flax and what they use to move moa. This is flax here on the left-hand side, again brought in by the Maori. And what happens to that is that when it reaches maturity, which it is there pretty much, they cut it off at the base. They would then strip the fangs of the green and the flesh of the flax, and it comes out with a vine-like substance which is very, very strong, will lift tons. Now, I talked about the farmers and the road and the cattle. I didn't talk about the cattle, but we'll in a minute. Look at the left. What happened was, after this was built, farmers said, we can make more money out of subdividing than we can by continuing to farm the whole area. So the whole left-hand side of this road almost has been subdivided. Now I also talk about it. See up here on the edge here where it's been stacked up? The road, that's powdered. Yeah, and you can pick it up with your fingers, it'll just fall through your fingers. And you can see several lots about it as we go along here. They've just let 10,000 housing permits for down this side of the road. So we're going to build 10,000 houses down this side of the road. When they put the roadway through, and remember we were only talking 5 years ago, and they put all these underpasses under the road. Under because in discussion with the farmers said, well, we've now got 2 farms. How do we get our cattle from one farm to the other farm? Are you going to put gates in and we'll just drive them across? Well, that doesn't really work on a motorway where you can do 110 kilometres an hour. So they said, no, we'll put underpasses in. So farmers said, where are you going to put the underpass? We'll put it behind your fence on that side, behind your fence on that side. Well, no, that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because our cattle aren't used to seeing cars. Well, the council being really intelligent said, well, we'll put it further back in the paddock. But not unusual to see a cow disappear in the middle of the paddock out here. The land hasn't just swallowed it. It's gone down into the underpass to come over the side. Now, I don't know whether you guys have ever broken down in the middle of the country by a paddock, or stopped in the middle of the country by a paddock. And the first thing that happens is all the cattle in that paddock wander through the paddock to stop at the fence and have a look at what you're doing. Oops. And a bit of an oops again. How can you run to the back of someone on a road that has nobody in it? That's got to be pretty unique. Only accident signs up here. Maybe there's 2. Oh, I'll never. Okay. Now this little path you can see down here on the left-hand side, that's a bike path. So we have a commitment by New Zealand government. They will have all of our cities, major cities, joined by a bicycle path by 2025. And there's been subsequent governments have been working on that. Now 2 posts you can see at the end of each end of this, or Maori statues, you can see at each end of this bridge. One of them is, this is weird, okay, one of them is the god of travel, and the other one is the god of food or kai. So, this road never has accidents. Well, the police aren't doing a whole lot.
Wow. Oh, man.
That ain't good.
Okay, so yeah, risky job roads, that's not good. Okay, so 2 gods you can see. This guy was chair. Look at the most. The 2 gods that the statues represent are the god of Kai, which is the god of food, and the god of travel. Now, when they were put over a river, it's the Kaituna River. And Kaituna, Kai stands for food, Tuna stands for travel. So they're there to say, look after our waterways and therefore our feed, and look after our travel, look after our transport. Because when Maori first arrived here, the main mode of transport was up our rivers, or walking. So, There's some cows. Oh, Jersey cows. I don't know why they call them Jersey. But right out to the right-hand side there is the town of Te Puke's. That was a service industry town for both the Bay Area and for the Kiwi industry and the farming industry that's around here. Surrounds us.
Sorry, I'm going to distract.
Now, were we to be Maori on the bus today, we'd be saying that the god of food and the god of travel is going to do two things for us on the way. Because as we've evolved, Maori now believe that a waka is what you travel in. So a waka, when they arrived in New Zealand, was the boat that they travelled in to get here. So the boat they travelled in to get here was the waka. So it's a bit like a big canoe. Does that make sense? Now, if they're travelling in a bus, that's their waka. Or if they're travelling in a car, that's their waka. So they want to have protection when they're doing any of those things. Now, as we come into the kiwi fruit area, two things. Right-hand side of a bus will be yellow kiwi fruit. Left-hand side of a bus will be green kiwi fruit. On the orchards, some of the orchards now, we also have red kiwi fruit. So what's the difference between green, red and yellow? Yellow kiwi fruit is a sweeter kiwi fruit. The green kiwi fruit is slightly more tart, unless it's about to go off. And just before it goes off, it gets very sweet. And the pink coloured or red coloured kiwi fruit, they say has a Merlot taste. So if you like drinking, I guess you're going to end up buying the pink one. Now the orchards down here, you're going to see a whole lot of hedges and these fences. So the fences you're starting to see come up now, they're all here because we're an island. Now, when I talk about New Zealand being an island, from anywhere in any of the country in New Zealand, stand directly in the middle of it, go east or west, and you're no more than 3.5 hours from the sea. Under any circumstance, no more than 3.5 hours from the sea. So the kiwi fruit orchards, these fences that you see up here are an experiment. And are an experiment to see if they can replace the hedging, which is very expensive to maintain, with the standard fences. They're having a little bit of an issue because you can see they're getting blowout on the fences. Now, if we were to take all of that hedging, and we call it hedgerow, line it up in a line, I'm told, and I've never measured it, but I'm told there would be a 28,000 kilometre line of hedges. 28,000 kilometres. Now those hedges are mowed twice a year. When I say mowed twice a year, mowed down each side and then mowed across the top. And the mowing is to keep them just in order so they get enough air through but protect the fruit. Now the fans that you see out in the orchard here, they're not to keep the workers cool, which people often think they are. So when we're picking the fruit, they turn the fans on to keep everyone nice and cool. No, they don't. When fans come on, it's during the winter. We get about 3 frosts here only a year, and sometimes none. When we get a frost, the fans will be turned on. Will they be aimed at the fruit? No, they'll be aimed up in the air. Now, it's not to blow the frost away. They're aimed in the air because across the bay we have a warm band of air that flows across about 200 metres up, and it flows across 24/7. And what happens there is it disturbs that warm band of air, and very slowly that air comes down and stops the fruit from freezing. They want it to get cold, they just don't want it to freeze. Now, if you don't see a fan in an orchard and we get a bit of a frost, then what you will see is you'll see a helicopter hovering above those orchards on the mornings when there's going to be a frost. Now if you look out to the left here, this depicts the typical entrance to a Maori marae. So you have the gate and the fence. Now the gate is never very wide. And the gate's not very wide at all because they'll challenge you as you arrive there. So you've heard about the Maori challenge, but haka is part of that challenge. So a warrior will come out, he'll greet you, and he'll greet you with a spear. And he's going to greet you with a spear and a feather, normally. And the feather he will put on the ground. You pick the feather up, you've come in peace. And he'll then welcome you into the marae. You don't pick the feather up, you've come not in peace, but in war. And so, at that point, you won't be going into the marae, but you'll be negotiating outside of the marae. Now, on the right-hand side here, our kiwi fruit orchards. And I'd like, if we've got time, so, and we'll try and call into one. All of those vines, you can walk under. So all of our picking here is done by hand. So we need, in the picking season, which we're starting to run into now. So the time at this stage is, in the next week or so, you'll see the pickers start to go through the orchards. And what will happen is they go into the orchard and are looking for any bad fruit. And when I say bad fruit, we're talking about fruit that can't be sold, can't be crushed for jam, can't be used at all. And they'll just pull the whole lot off and drop it on the ground. So even if it's really badly misshapen, they pull it off and drop it on the ground. That's the first pick that goes through. The second pick goes through about a month after that. And what they're looking for is any oversized fruit. And when I say oversized fruit, anything that's not going to go neatly into a tray. And they'll pull a whole lot of that off, and it goes away either for pulping for jam, or for pulping for wine, or something else. Now, kiwi fruit wine don't taste that good, in my opinion. Third pick that goes through is a pick that will actually pick the orchard, and their instruction is pick it clean, because everything that's left at that stage is usable. And I'll go through and I'll literally just pick the orchard clean. Now we'll come back to that in a second. We're going to run out the more orchards out here. Makatu is out to Valette. Remember I said there were 2 lots of wakas arrived? One arrived at Makatu, sorry, out here at Valette. And when they arrived, they formed a village that came through, so we're about 3-4 kilometres from the coast here. They formed a village that went through from Makatu right through to here, Tauranga. And in Tauranga, they kind of had various tribe areas in here. Now, what happened one day, and the story is what happened one day, one of the villagers lost his dog. And his dog went up the Kaituna River. Remember we passed the Kaituna River back there? So he followed the Kaituna River up. As he followed the Kaituna River up and his dog, to try and catch his dog, he discovered there was a whole nother town, a whole nother area. Sorry, in New Zealand. And when he discovered that area, that was when they discovered what they thought were the Great Lakes. So the Lake of Rotorua and Lake Rotorua that we're going to go past today. Came back to his tribe very excited and said, I found the lake, Rotorua and Rotorua. I didn't call them out at the time, but I found a lake. So the tribe decided they were going to send an advance party up there to have a look. Backed up a waka, came down to Tauranga there, turned left, and we're almost following their pathway today. The road almost follows their path. And it follows it because it was the easiest route through. Now, coming back to the kiwi fruit. Doesn't look that high, does it? You'll be really surprised if we get a chance to pull off this afternoon and have a look. When picking season comes along, we need 25,000 people to pick. So what they do is they go down the bay and they say to everyone, "Come on, you're coming out to pick the fruit. Babies have got to come too, so we need 25,000 people." Can you believe that? Thought you would. Now, what really happens is that we turn off unemployment benefit in the bay. So you can't get unemployment benefit during the picking season. That's 3 months per year. Takes 3 months to pick the fruit. We have $2 billion worth of fruit comes out of here and exported from that shed that's right beside your ship. 80 boats come in, 80 ships come in every year and pick up just the kiwi fruit to export overseas. What really happens is we have a number of backpackers and transient people travelling around New Zealand a lot of the year. 2 things. One, we've just turned off the unemployment benefit, so anyone who was on unemployment should now be out here looking for work. Now, if you can't come out here and look for work, then there's a second thing you need to do. You need to go and see your doctor because you're on the wrong benefit. Because there are so many jobs out here. You can either do picking, you can do paperwork, I work in an office, you can drive a bus taking people back and forth, or you can drive a truck or a fork truck and they'll train you how to do all of those things. And hopefully get you into a work ethic that keeps you working at the end of the season. But you cannot get unemployment. Second thing that happens is backpackers or people travelling through will come into the bay so they can earn some money during the period that they're here. Two, they're allowed to have their permit stamped so they can now work in New Zealand, but for every day they work and get a pay slip, they get 2 days added to the time they're allowed to stay in New Zealand. So if they're in here on a 4-month permit or a 6-month permit, for every day that they work they get another 2 that they can spend travelling around and they can earn some money. Don't have to work the whole day, they may work a half day, but they'll still get the 2 days out. Third thing that happens, we bring in a lot of people to the islands. We come in, and it's the only form of earning money. They come and they'll come as what we call intact teams. So you have a team leader, comes in, and he brings all of his mates, if you like, with him. They come, they stay together, and we supply the accommodation either on the orchard or in specially built little orchard towns, we call them, around. And they'll stay for a period of the peak. They'll earn enough money to go home and support their families for a whole year. They come back again next year and do exactly the same. So we have a lot of the same people come in every year, do the peak, and then leave again. But as we move though from Tauranga towards Rotorua, you're going to see a change in both the landscape and also what happens. So we're fruit in the bay, and the Bay of Plenty extends right down through Rotorua, by the way. It extends out to the Kaimai Ranges on the right-hand side out here, right down through to the Mamakus, around the back end of Rotorua, over to Gisborne, not Gisborne, to Wakatani on the left-hand side of the bus. The Wakatani's about 100 kilometres down the track on the side of the bus. We're going to see a change from the fruits you can see the side of the bus now to timber and forestry. Anyone here from California? Yep, okay. So all of these trees, the trees that we're growing here, they're a pine tree. We call it Pinus radiata, but they're a native of Northern California. They were brought here originally because they grow very well here, first reason. The second reason is we needed timber to build houses in the beginning. So they were brought in, they grew very quickly, we can grow a tree here. They can cut them in 15 years, they're not quite mature enough to get enough wood out of them. Most of the forests will run through 25 years. So every 25 years we get a fresh lot of timber come out. Now, we're growing so much timber now that we have going from that port that you parked at today, 3 shiploads of timber leave there every day of the year, 365 days a year. We're also told that if we don't plant another tree for the next 20 years, that's 20 years, we'll have enough timber to keep sending 3 shiploads of timber from that port for the next 20 years. However, for every tree we cut down, we plant 1.1. So we're increasing our forestry at the moment, and that's part of the carbon neutral or the carbon program for New Zealand to try and drop carbon levels and everything else. So if you consider that a tree grows in 20-25 years, when they cut the trees out, they leave the ground feral or empty for 2 years. And they leave it empty for 2 years for a reason. First year, they'll sprinkle, it's like a powder over. But it's a powder that helps the trunks to break down very quickly. So as the trunks break down very quickly, then after year 1, they'll bring a crusher in. That crusher will go through, and they just run it straight across the ground and breaks the trunks down, and they become part of the land again. Following that, then the planters will come through. Now, a planter can plant and get this kind of clear, because it's weird. I can't see how they can do it, but they plant 1,000 trees a day. One planter. Imagine planting 1,000 plants a day in good soil, let alone walking around these hills, planting 1,000 trees a day. That's hard work. Now, two things have happened. As forestries develop in the Bay area or in the Rotorua area, employment has gone down in Rotorua. So Rotorua was a city. It was the city of Rotorua, and we have now the town of Rotorua. So to be a city in New Zealand, you've got to have a population of 100,000. 100,000 or more, you're a city. Less than 99,999, you're a town. Rotorua has gone from a city of 113,000 down to a town of 67,000 people. Because our forestry industry has changed. How's our forestry industry changed? The way that we do the cutting of the trees, but it's not, it's cutting. So the way that we cut them now mill the trees. What happens is where we used to have a gang of 20 people go in and they'd work together as a gang cutting down trees and clear felling land, we now have one tractor, one man and a second tractor to move the trees. So another one tractor, one man, woman, second tractor just to move the trees out to where they're going to be picked up by the trucks. What happens, first tractor comes in, he grabs the tree at the bottom with a wraparound machine. That machine goes straight up the outside of the tree and strips it of all its bark and takes off all the branches. As it comes back down, it cuts the tree into transportable size logs and lays them over and puts them in a stack. One tractor, one person has replaced 20 people. That's why unemployment was high in the Rotorua area for a long while. That's why industry's changed in Rotorua. So, what was industry in the first place in Rotorua? Was the forests and was the forest-related industries. So in the forest-related industries, we're talking about the milling, we're talking about the cutting, we're talking about the pruning and everything else that goes along with that. So what are people doing there now? Our biggest opportunity in Rotorua today is tourism. So we have just on 1 million tourists visit Rotorua every year. Every year. Now what do they come here for? Because it's our main centre for Maori attractions. It's our main centre for volcanic activity, for seeing volcanic activity in New Zealand. And it's our main centre for cultural events in New Zealand of Maori. So our population of Maori is bigger in Rotorua than it is anywhere else in New Zealand.
Peter, it's really cold.
Yes, it's
I'm just starting to turn it up, I just felt that. It's good that the aircon's working though, eh? Everybody's frozen, but the aircon's working.
Yes, one is frozen.
Okay, that should come up warm in a couple of seconds. If it gets too hot, throw something at the person over here and I'll talk to him. Right, so as we said, the Maori came down through here, and when they came down through here, we're still on the same path. When they were coming down, they knew that the Great Lakes were down this way. They didn't know how close they were to the Great Lakes. So out on the right-hand side, we've got the Kaituna River, which is now miles from where we are. We're going to cross it again up here, but it's now miles from where we are. You know how when it's going to rain, you go, and you kind of can smell the water coming? You know it's going to rain, there's nothing to really tell you. They knew they were getting closer and closer to the water, and they could tell. As they came through here, they were looking for the body of water. Now, second thing, I talked about Rotorua being our thermal attraction. We've had a big change in our industry this year, and particularly since you would have all heard about the White Island experience. Since White Island, a lot of our thermal attractions in New Zealand now consider considered to be risk attractions, and so have been closed down or shut down a little bit for a period, and understandably so. Unfortunately, what happened to White Island, and this is going to sound very callous, but it was a blip, and it was a real. People going out there were going actually onto an active volcano. I drove the buses down there a lot, and part of a brief on the way down was talking to people about it. People would say to you, is it dangerous out there? And say, well, nobody's been killed out there for a number of years. However, when you get out there, they're going to give you a hard hat to put on. If you don't wear it, you don't get out of the boat. They're going to give you a breathing mask, which if you don't wear it, you don't get out of the boat, because you cannot breathe once you get on the island. Is it dangerous? That probably says to me it's just a little bit dangerous. But you know, people went there for adventure on it. It was very unfortunate. 15 minutes either side, everybody would have still been fine today. Very sad. Anyway, coming down through here, you're going to see some change in the landscape because of the thermal activity. We've got a valley down here that used to have a lot of trees in it. And it runs right alongside this road. And what they're finding is the trees are dying off alongside it. They're doing a lot of testing alongside there now and going, have we got thermal activity building up underneath this area? And we have. So now decided we have got thermal activity building up under the area. And part of that thermal activity is causing the trees to die. Now they don't know how deep it is, and they don't know what it is, and they don't want to drill to find it. So they're trying to find it through other means. But when we know we have thermal activity is when we see two things happen. You know when you mow your lawn, you occasionally catch a rock, and you, oh, I wonder how that got there. Take no notice, or pick it up and throw it away. Well, what happens here is you mow your lawn, say, and you catch a rock. And don't know how that got there. You mow your lawn again in 2 weeks' time, and you catch another rock. And you go, I thought I picked that one up. You mow your lawn again a couple of weeks later, and you pick up a series of rocks. What happens is, as we get built up of thermal activity under the ground, it forces up the rocks very slowly through the surface before it breaks. So the next thing you'll start to see is the ground around it dying off just before the rocks break through. Now if we look out to the left of the bus here now, see how we're going into a dead forest? The white ground cover's still okay. Our trees are all dying. And the trees are all dying because we know that there's activity out here on the left-hand side. Now this in the left here was all forestry. They're not replanting it at the moment because of what we're seeing out here. Now will they go back to replanting it? That was a tree farm. They may do, but they're going to have to wait and see either it will settle down again or it'll become dormant land. They're also currently surveying in case they have to move this road. When I say move the road, take it to the right, move it away from the area. Running alongside the first of what they call the Great Lakes. Now, very soon you're going to see it up the left-hand side of your bus. I'll turn it up to 26 though. I thought, oh, he can go real quick. We'll bring it down back down to 23. That should be a pretty stable temperature. you see the planting directly ahead of a bus. That's about 3 months into its growth. I'm trying to think. So planting them, they're about 10 centimetres tall when they first plant them. Now if we're looking out to the left now, you can see a whole lot of bush. When we get to the top of this hill, you're going to actually see the first of Lake Rotorua. That's the first of the lakes that they came to. I'm not going to stop here because it's far better to park and you can pull over to further up. If you look back down, you can see it back down through here behind the bus and out to the side. We'll see it ahead of the bus as we go through this next couple of corners. So you're going to directly ahead of the bus now. Now, why do they call it Lake Rotorua? They call it Lake Rotorua because Rotorua in Maori stands for large body. So they thought they'd found the large body of water, and that's why they call it Lake Rotorua. Also, when they arrived here, they thought they'd arrived in heaven. Why did they think they'd arrived in heaven? There was plenty of kai in the water, plenty of fish in the water. Not only is there plenty of fish in the water, they can fish it up here, row over there, put it in again and cook it. So there's a lot of thermal activity in the water as well. Now I know a lot of you wanted to go, I heard a lot of you wanted to go whitewater rafting today, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
You just look like the adventurous one type to me. We're going to pull over here and see a couple of cars go past us. We're not broken. Okay. There you go, guys. And I'm doing this on purpose, so I kind of stop almost on the bridge down here. And why didn't you get away of stopping and turning on your hazard lights if somebody comes around the corner? It's difficult if you've got a queue of cars. So I'm going to show you where, should you have chosen to go whitewater rafting, you would have gone. The left-hand side of the bus, when we slow down on this bridge, what you're going to see is you're going to see just about where you would get in the raft. So just up from there, you'll see where they go through a couple of gates just to show them, you know, this is what we do, guys. This is how we go around the obstacle. This is how we turn the raft. People come through there, and then they come out to a flat water on the right-hand side. They go, well, that wasn't too bad. And then they go 50 metres downstream and they turn a corner and go real quick.
Oh.
And if you're standing on the bridge here, it's fantastic because you hear them scream. Right, so left-hand side, you'll be able to see the water there. Just a little bit turbulent.
Wow.
Hold yours up, guys. Nah, didn't you do very well? Now they'll turn that around, they'll come out the other side, and they go into flat water. Yeah. They're about to get the fright because they don't tell them beforehand. Now that's a grade 5 river. Now they get in the river just over here, where that concrete ramp is. If you're going down in a kayak, you get in on this side on the car park, and they literally push you over the bank frontwards. Your kayak goes head first into the water. They say, hold your breath. Now land down through here. Right hand side of the bus, Maori land. Left hand side of the bus, privately owned. Under the treaty terms, Treaty of Waitangi and the settlement of the Treaty of Waitangi, and it's our New Zealand Day tomorrow, by the way. And with the settlement of Treaty of Waitangi, a lot of the part of the settlement was Maori were gifted, and I'm not sure why they say gifted, they owned it in the first place, but they were gifted quite a bit of the land as part of the settlement. So when they were gifted that land, part of that gift meant that land was theirs in perpetuity. So theirs forever and ever and ever. It could never be taken off. So a lot of the tribes have built along these areas. Now this little school we're coming up to here on the right hand side is a total immersion Maori school. When we say a total immersion Maori school, every subject apart from English is taught in Maori in there. Every subject. We have 5 of those schools in the Bay Area, where everything's taught in Maori. Now, the difference between Maori or tribal land and say what's now, I'll call it European land because I can't think of a better way to call it, other land, is that Maori land never attracts taxes. So they never pay tax on it. never pay any rates on it, so you can have a tribal area within a city in a very expensive piece of real estate that's never paying any land taxes or anything else. And they get a gift from the government each year to maintain that land. The government continue to pay them to maintain the land. Now, if you build a house on Maori land, you're going to be part of the tribe that owns that land. You won't build it, the tribe will build the house, and the tribe will own the house. You'll have a right to use that house for your natural life, gifted to you by the tribe. Now, you've got to be a member of a tribe, obviously, to build a house. So all these houses here are owned by the tribe. You can't assume at the end of your life that you're going to gift that onto your children to use, because it reverts back to the tribe, and the tribe decides who's going to live in it. Now, my understanding, and I've had a bit to do with Maori, is that, normally the procedure would be that children do move into the land, but it's not just a given, not a given at all. Now we come down here, Maori land stops. Now we're now back to normal land. Now I said that the tribe settled first at the other end of the lake. After it settled at the other end of the lake, been there for a while and had their village set up, they slowly moved down to this end of the lake. And just over on the left-hand side of here, the bus here, you'll see as we go across the bridge, one of the earlier villages that was set up. Now, a little church you see here on the left is the first European church that was built in the area. Now, that village got burnt down a few years ago, and they replaced it with a very kind of bland building. It just could be anywhere. But still that's used extensively. Now, what we will be seeing today, though, is a lot of the tribes will be moving today, and they'll be moving for New Zealand Day tomorrow. So a lot of the tribes will go back to their ancestral lands up to Waitangi for the Waitangi celebration. Now, as we come up the hill here, we're going to pretend it's really hard to get up here. I'll keep riding to the left. Where this other bus is stopped up here, if you look down through the lake, that's this end of Lake Rotorua here. Now he stopped up here, but you get a better photo once we get up here. We'll do the same thing. If you came here in the summer, here we go, get off the road. Came here in the summer, what you would see would be sailboats out on there, and sailboats as far as you can see. In the summer, during the year, fisheries top the lake up with 500,000 baby trout every year. Now, they do that for a reason. They do it because it keeps the rivers clear, as well as the lake body. We've also got an issue at the moment where there was an idiot breeding carp up north. So everybody knows what koi carp are? Yeah. Right. And he was breeding carp up north, bringing him down and putting him in all the rivers and lakes. Now, they've never found it for years and years that what was happening. They were wondering how the carp were getting in here, and that was how. So now a number of our rivers and lakes have been infested with koi carp, breed prolifically, can't be eaten. When asked why he was doing it when taken to court, he said because trout fishing was for the elitist. Only the elite could afford to go trout fishing. Now that's a load of rubbish, because you can buy a license to go trout fishing for $2. And they'll give you a week's license. You can use a piece of string if you wanted to go trout fishing. So it's not for the elitist at all. Just a very twisted man. Now, they hadn't figured out though, when they first moved here, that just over here on the right-hand side there was another body of water. So we're now running down past on the right-hand side of the bus, Lake Rotorua. Can you see it? Yeah. You're looking at the windscreen if you can. Now, Lake Rotorua is actually a larger body of water than Lake Rotorua. When I say a larger body, on surface it's a larger body. In depth, it's a much smaller body of water. So look where Lake Rotorua's got depths of up to 200 feet. Over here we have a maximum depth of 30 feet anywhere. So its surface is larger at Rotorua, its body is not. Again, 500,000 spawning trout are fed into this one every year as well. Now, a lot of the lakes and rivers around New Zealand, we do exactly the same thing. So, fishery and game have a big headquarters here in the Bay area, in the Rotorua area, and part of that headquarters is breeding trout. They also have a number of trucks, and you'll see a truck going around with a tank on the back that says, "We're transporting live trout." And they transport them when they're small and just literally pump them out of fire hose into the water. So there you go, guys, as you get home. As we run to Rotorua, the second thing you're going to notice here is the houses are a bit run down. And you think, oh, doesn't anyone look after them? It's not that at all. You get a lot of sulphur in the air here. So the sulphur in the air is very caustic and very hard on property and tin and anything else. In fact, if you have silver jewellery or you've moved into the area and you have silverware, if you are going to remain in the area, then you need to put it in your freezer, because otherwise it will go black overnight. Come and stay in the area for 2 or 3 days, and any silver you're wearing, like rings or maybe a necklace, will be black. So we often say to people, you're coming back here to stay for a while for some reason, just be conscious of the fact that you don't, A, expose your jewellery to the water, but secondly, that overnight, take it off, put it in the freezer, it'll stop it going black. So, Mammoth Ranges surrounding us here is where we cut off. So that's where the Bay area cuts off, and we move into the centre of the North Island, central North Island. Coming up on our right-hand side very soon is going to be the Rotorua International Airport. It was called the Rotorua International Airport because a few years ago Richard Branson decided he was going to fly in here from the Gold Coast of Australia. So he had planes flying in and out, and it ended up not being profitable, so only did it for about 18 months, 2 years, and they cut it out. Rotorua didn't like the idea they were going to lose the international status out of the airport. Now, the man who manages the FRI, which is Forestry Research Institute here, lives in Sydney. He has his own private jet, and he comes here every 2 or 3 weeks and spends time. He flies it in his own private jet, parks it over here at the airport. They said, problem solved, we're still the Rotorua International Airport. Because he comes in his private jet from Australia and he parks it here. So that's our Rotorua International Airport on the right hand side. Isn't that exciting? Temperature right now?
Yeah.
So left hand side of the bus out over behind the hills here are Blue Lakes, number of different lakes out there. Blue Lakes, we've got Hell's Gate out there, so Hell's Gate is a thermal activity. In Hell's Gate, people often go there and have mud baths. And we take whole bus loads from down there to have mud baths. They'll go and they'll have a swim in the mud or a bath in the mud. They get back on the bus and we think, I hope you have a shower before you go to dinner tonight because you stink. So even if they've had that shower beforehand, the mineral waters of the, or minerals from the mud and sulphur are still in their skin. I think it must last for days. Awful. For any Americans on the bus, the American Embassy will be coming up on our right-hand side very, very soon. So there we go, there's the American Embassy. We have about 4 of them in the Bay Area here. Side of the bus, that's maize you can see growing. But maize is a cattle feed for winter about. It's yet to form a cob. Once the cob's formed, that'll be harvested probably in the next 4 to 5 weeks. Its growth from a stalk, from a planted up, is at the rate of just on 15 centimetres a day until it reaches maturity size and then it forms its cob. Now the cob, when it's harvested, the stalk is all shredded. Or cubed, sorry, and that's used as feed. The cob itself, every kernel on the cob has to have a hole poked in it before it can be used as feed for the cattle. And the reason it has to have a hole poked in it or be broken is because otherwise it goes in one end of the cow or the cattle and out the other end as totally the same produce as it went in. Breaking the cob open or breaking the kernel open, it means that they can actually digest it and get the nutrient out of it. This on the right hand side of the bus, the T9 shopping unit. But down here, one of the things you are going to find is a lot of the names are more Maori. Now, when I say it's got the highest population of Maori, there's something in Google that's always worried me, and I don't know why it's in there, but they say that you'll experience racism in Rotorua more so than you will anywhere else in New Zealand. I've never discovered it, never. I think you can find racism, it doesn't matter where you go and go looking for it. And why they publish it is just weird. But the population here is 80% Maori, 20% other. So when I say other, that's European, Pakeha, or any other race. So there's a fairly high percentage also, because there's a fair bit of mining here, of Chinese in here. So the Chinese came in the beginning and did a lot of the mining in New Zealand. Maori, if you talk to Maori, if you talk to the tribes, they will tell you there is between 4 and 6 full-blooded Maoris left in New Zealand. Now, why do they say between 4 and 6? Because each tribe reckons that they have them in their tribe. We believe probably there are none. However, to get on the Maori roll, if you have 1% Maori blood, you can vote on the Maori roll in New Zealand, so you can choose the Maori. Depending on the percentage of Maori, you can also get grants for schooling. So 1% would give you 1% of the grant that a Maori can get for assistance through school. And again, as part of the settlement negotiated subsequently on the treaty. And that goes up by percentage of Maori you have. We have a Maori king in New Zealand, we also have a Maori queen in New Zealand. Now, I used to do, up till last year when our company lost the contract, I used to do the Maori King visits, and the Maori King visits all the maraes around his domain during the February, March, April period. And we would go out and went out to some real way out maraes and took the Maori King out and the Maori band, and normally 2 or 3 tribes would all travel together, and we'd take out 4 or 5 busloads that would arrive at the place and perform, and then have a pofri. So a pofri is a meeting. They sit down and talk about what they're going to do for next year, and they tell the king what they've done. The king would stand up and tell them what they haven't managed to do, and be very vocal about it. Now, Maori band, I took the Maori band 2 or 3 times. The Maori band is kids, and they go from about this size to teenagers. Now, they only knew one tune, and they played them on the marae with that one tune as loud as they could, and they played them off the marae with that one tune as loud as they could. Sleeping on a marae is something different. Everybody goes in one hall. You don't put anything down and leave it around, because the person next to you will think it's their blanket. You certainly don't leave any clothes laying around. But a lot of fun. So, coming into town here, left-hand side, just down here is the Rotorua Racecourse. Rotorua Racecourse. We have 5 race meetings out of the year. But because there's no stress on the environment here, i.e. our population dropped here, we have no land stress here. So there's plenty of land. That racecourse will stay there forever, and it does offer employment to people who are wanting to, I guess, who want to work there. Out on the right-hand side of the bus, a lot of our land's dead. And it's dead because it's very high in sulphur content. So you can go bush on it. You can't do anything else with it. We're going to go out to into the government gardens, and in the government gardens we'll take you past a couple of places. We'll also take you into what we call the Rachel Springs, which is a natural hot water spring. And when I say natural hot water spring, it's, the temperature in there is about 200 degrees Celsius. Now, second thing, we're going to let you get off here for 10 minutes or so. When we stop there and get off, this bus has a horn that sounds like, if you hear it do that twice, it means we should be heading back towards the bus, alright? So you better have a look around. We're going to go, and the buildings are in here. You can see them directly ahead of the bus here now. Now, if you go and look out to the right, you'll see part of the lake. Now, that part of the lake is very sulphur, very much sulphur. So, sulphur looks white when it's in water. So, all of the lake out here is white. What I might suggest the other bus is we go for a run out there and actually show you what it looks like after you've had a chance to have a wander down here. 2 or 3 things you're going to see down here. One is one of the original government buildings, unfortunately closed down at the moment, and it's closed down was a museum. Its last use was as a museum, but it's closed at the moment because of the fact that they discovered under it a very big hole, and that very big hole caused them to have concern the building could topple into it. So if you think about Rotorua, we're sitting now in a volcano, in a natural volcano. Around here, all of the houses and properties are heated by natural vents or by underground thermal. So you'll see coming out of a lot of the houses a single pipe, and that single pipe is the release for that natural steam. About 7 years ago, 8 years ago, council decided they were going to close a lot of those down. They were going to close them down because they couldn't make money out of people taking thermal naturally. Now, you know what happens when you block a hole and you got pressure under it? Well, if thermal's right there and we block it from coming out right there, it's going to come out over there. And they discovered after probably a year not even that long, they suddenly had these houses that had thermal coming up in their lounge or in their dining room, and they had to open them all up again. So they went, well, it wasn't really a good idea, but it was a good idea, but it just didn't work. Another room seat.
That's a big one.
Now, as we go down, right down here, into the gardens, as we go through, we'll be going through some of the original places where clerks were based in. So, our early governor lived down here for a while. And when he lived down here, he moved into the area because he felt the population of Maori was fairly big here, and it was going to become one of the important areas in the bay to be able to service the community. His wife, we're told, or his mistress, was apparently Spanish. Now, we assume it's his mistress. So the bathhouses directly ahead of the bus in a minute were built for his mistress and her friends in a Spanish style. Now, don't look very Spanish to me, but we're told it's Spanish. Now, these buildings out here to the left, when government or governance comes in, you've got to have somewhere for the clerks to sit. So while they've been modernised a little bit, that was the original where the clerks sat and did all their paperwork, just out here to the left-hand side. Now been turned into a series of art studios, boutique little shops where you can go in and you can rent a little bit of space and sell your wares if you want it. So we have a Polynesian spa directly ahead of us. Now, there are 4 types of spa in there. There's a large pool where you can go and everybody can go and you're all in together. Alright? The next one, I think, is the adult pools. Now, I don't know what happens in an adult pool, but obviously something that doesn't happen in a large spa. We then have a family spa and a private spa. The part I can't figure is what's the difference between an adult pool and a private spa? Don't know. Okay, so this steam over here on the right hand side is it's natural steam, and that's what they use to heat the water in here. The water on the left hand side of the bus is white because of the sulphur. And you can actually see little outlets coming up underneath that. Right? Directly ahead of the bus is the blue bars. So why do they call them the blue bars? Because the water that comes into there is blue, and extremely blue. Now, in the summer, we close down the front pool and leave only the back pool open, and we put a deck across the front pool and we serve Devon chai teas in there. Quite a nice place to go for Devon chai tea. Now, this is the building I was talking about here. Now, originally, the right-hand side of that was women's bathing when governance was in there, and left-hand side was men's bathing when governance was in there. Why both sides separate? Because the sulphur at that stage was so strong that you didn't wear your swimmers in there. And you know, in those days they were slightly more prudish than today, where most people would go, well, who really cares? And just get in anyway. So this is the blue bars in here, and we have the Rachel Springs down here. Now, we'll let you out and have a little bit of a wander here if you want to. Remember the 2 toots. Now, I will open both doors on the bus, but I'm going to warn you about the back door. It's a very steep step down there. Don't spoil the rest of your trip for a minute and a half getting out the front door. If you want to get out the back, feel free to, but just be careful how you get out. Don't slip. I've seen people slip on it before. So as I said, about 10 minutes here, so it's the Rachel Springs on the right hand side, temperature around the 200 degree mark. Oops, let's go a little bit further forward.